should be played at high volume. This should be played at high volume. This should be played at high volume. Preferably in a residential area.
The following thoughts on Hoppe Hour do not represent Cox Media Group or its sponsoring. Anything you hear may and will be used against you. Thank you. Voted as best local podcast in Tampa Bay by the Creative Loafing. You're listening to Hoppe Hour.
What up? What's happening? This is Hoppe Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppe. And this next guy on the phone line, I got to network with when I was the 19-year-old intern at the morning show Radio Boot Camp. On the phone line from 103.5 KTU in New York City, Paul Cubby Bryant is live on Hoppe Hour. What's up, man?
Man, quite the introduction. I appreciate it. What up, Ryan? How you doing, dude?
I'm doing good, man. Back then, I was so unsure about myself because I was just this little intern for Don Anthony. And I don't know if you remember when we met. This was when you were on 93.9 in Chicago, and I would listen to all the radio in Chicago. So I knew who you were, and I was like, hey, Cubby.
No, I totally remember that. I remember you reminded me a lot of me, like at that age. I was gung-ho and loving radio, and thankfully I still love it. But you brought back a lot of memories because, doing what we do, you have to live and breathe it. And you definitely you have that passion, that's for sure.
My passion has changed, though, over the last 3 years because I went from being a fanboy listener to now working in a major market where you have to be more professional. Was there a point for you when you kind of went from being the geeky listener to then saying to yourself, okay, now I have to work hard?
Well, you know what? It's kind of a good point you brought up. I mean, for the most part, it seems like it's always been fun, and that's why you and I got in this business. It just kind of comes naturally, but I mean, like any job, you're going to have good days and bad days, and it does feel like work. But when you can find a job that is more like fun and not work, then you got the right job, and that's what kind of where I'm at right now. I think that you are too.
What would be a bad day for you?
A bad day, I'm my own worst enemy, and a bad day for me is maybe when I don't know, I think all radio personalities are somewhat insecure.
We all are.
Yeah, we all are. We all think that we just had our worst break ever, and we suck, and that to me, I'm like that all the time. But there are days where I'm like semi kind of happy with the show, and to me, that's a good day. But I think that's where I don't know. I'm just a big believer. I still think I'm in market number 42 where I started, even though I'm in New York City. I just always a little insecure, and I think that's kind of a good thing in a way because you never want to get too cocky and think you're the man, or else it could come back to bite you. So I just kind of have that attitude of still the kid, still the intern, trying to learn how to run a board kind of feeling.
To me, when people think they know everything about radio, that's when you're going to doom yourself. Unless you're someone like Howard, where you literally know everything about radio, you can always improve each and every day. That's sort of a thing I've been noticing lately.
Yeah, 100%, and as the music changes and, everything, every day is completely different, and you can always get better, and that's how I feel every day I go in. Let's do a better show than we did yesterday. And someone told me a long time ago, you're only as good as your last break, and I always think that way. I could have a really awful break, and then I worry about it for 5 minutes, and the next one's good, and you forgot about the break. So, there's something to be said about that.
Now, I've always basically done talk radio or podcasts, so I know how breaks work, but I've never done one. So, what is the definition of a bad break?
I don't know. A bad break is, when you're doing your podcast, you may have a mental landscape of where you're going with a certain break or with a story or what have you. And when you have a mental landscape of what kind of road you're going to go down when you're doing something, when you're telling a story on the air, and it just doesn't come out the way you originally had it in your head, to me that's something that I think is bad. But 9 times out of 10, you think something's awful, and someone listening is like, "Dude, I didn't even recognize what you're talking about." No, you're fine. So, and that's what makes me feel good, and that's what kind of makes me feel better if I do beat myself up. But just not feeling good about something makes me kind of not happy about a break. I guess I strive for perfection, and as we all know, you can't be perfect.
And I think the other weird part about our job is we are talking into a mic, and at times we're the only person in the room talking to ourselves and potential listeners. So it just gets to our head, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I don't know about you, but when I'm on the air, I try to think of two or three of my close friends, or my wife. You kind of you can't have a visual of a stadium in your head. You have to just kind of picture two or three people that you know real well, and they're hanging out with you.
I have the same thing. Like whenever I'm on the air here, if I sit in on a show at the Bone, or I'm doing the show right now, I just pretend that 4 people are going to listen. Because if you think about the numbers and who's actually listening, then it gets to your head and you get too nervous, you know?
Yeah, exactly, 100%. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I can get too comfortable. When you, like you said, you're in a studio all by yourself, or you got, in my case, a couple of people on my show where I have a co-host and a producer. But sometimes I can get too loose, and you got to be careful because when you get real comfortable, you just never know when you might, just drop an F-bomb just because you feel like you're hanging out with buddies at a restaurant. But that's a good thing too when you to feel comfortable. Obviously, that makes for a better radio show, in my opinion.
Would you say you're the most comfortable you've ever been on air?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I've been doing mornings now 10 years, so it took me a while to get comfortable. I will say that because I was used to talking over music and hitting the post and doing all those cliche radio things. But now, I'm talking over, dead air and kind of like what we're doing right now. So in the beginning, I felt naked. I felt like alone because that music was always my safety net, and I didn't have that anymore. So I got kind of little. Just didn't feel right. It just didn't feel right. And then and now I'm just so used to it that it's much more conversational, and I feel it flows a lot better now that I feel deep breath.
Now, have you ever had to dump yourself because maybe you swore or even said something about your life that you don't want going on air when you got too comfortable?
Actually, it's funny you said that. I almost said no, I haven't, but I remember one time I was just sick over a breakup that I had with somebody, and I was telling the story on the air about we're talking about breakups, and this breakup was so the Band-Aid had just been ripped off. It was so fresh, and I remember I said her first and last name on the air. Now that there's nothing illegal about that, it's totally fine, but I didn't intend to do that. And, I didn't hit dump, and I thought about doing it, but I didn't do it because I'm like, well, I didn't break any law. I just said I'm broken up over blah, blah, blah. And, lo and behold, she called me and was livid because she was a private person anyway. So even when we were together, she hated me talking about the relationship. But here I slipped, and and she just went off. And I was like, God, I remember thinking about dumping that day, and I didn't do it. I should have hit that button. But it's a very important part of morning radio. You have to talk about your life. So at the end of the day, she wasn't the right one for me anyway. So good riddance.
Now, over the years with the women you've gone out with and now being married, what is the healthy medium between keeping a private life and talking about it on the air?
That's a great question. It's just it's about knowing. Well, first of all, you have to talk about it amongst yourselves, and my wife understands that there has to be a happy medium. There has to be, I do have to talk a little bit about my life, but leave some parts out. There's certain things that she doesn't want me to talk about. I'm not going to go all Howard Stern on you. If you've seen, the movie Private Parts, I'm not going to, talk about really bad issues. If God forbid there's a health issue or something like that, trying to have a kid, in Private Parts. But no, she knows that, just keep it fun and don't go over the edge. And I know my limits. And, we have a very family-oriented show anyway, so it's not like I'm going to be talking about our sex life on the air. So maybe if I was on a rock station, like a Howard Stern or whatever, I could do that. But, we have soccer moms listening anyway, so I would never go down that road. So it's really just her. What it comes down to is she understands I have to talk about my life. Just don't embarrass her. Don't go over the edge.
And even if you were to talk about your sex life, it's just not cool anymore. I met Opie about a month ago when I sat in on It's Eric Nagel when I went up to New York City. And the advice that Opie told me that I'll never forget is it's not cool to be a shock jock anymore. So even if you were, it would just be the same carbon copy,
Yeah, that's a great point because, there is no really shock anymore because we've all, at this point, there's so many ways to hear different stories and information, either from your podcast or Sirius XM or regular radio or TV and internet. There's nothing kind of shocking anymore. And so, I do think that maybe it's gotten a little bit too safe. I feel like people are offended now if you say the sky is, a green, and you'll get a million calls saying you're crazy, it's blue, which it is. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you're always going to get someone mad about something. I had somebody call me one day. Somebody called me and said, the way you're doing the weather, you keep saying it's going to be cloudy with off and on rain. It's on and off rain.
No, they didn't.
First and then off. Obviously she was kidding,
God.
but some people just like to pick you apart, so that's the world we live in.
Radio listeners are weird. They get so mad so easily. I don't get it. Like, it's just words. I don't get why they get mad.
I think a lot of people think they can hide behind that keyboard.
That's what I've been saying, man.
Yeah, they just feel like they can say anything. But if you were to see them face to face, I'm sure
exactly
it would be a different story.
When I worked for Rover's Morning Glory in Cleveland, a lot of the fans would say really mean things behind the keyboard. And by no means was I a celebrity in Cleveland. But whenever I got recognized at bars, say 99% of the time it was nice. And one time a guy was like, I hate you, Hoppy. These guys never say it to our face. It's just this persona they have because they might have no life,
Well, yeah, and it's funny. We also take, when we're on the radio and doing a topic, we're taking phone calls and we're taking text messages. Well, sometimes if somebody says something kind of rude, which doesn't happen often, thank God, but we will actually, because their phone number shows up on our computer where they texted us, we will call them and maybe they say, hey, you suck. You call them. And I, hey man, I got your text. Why do I suck? They will say something. That was my that was my little brother. I didn't do that. No, I love you guys. So when you get them on the phone, sometimes things change.
How much has social media changed radio for all the years you've been in it?
Well, I think it's been good and bad. I think it's as speaking currently in 2016, I think it's gotten good in the sense that you can get your message out through multiple platforms. You could promote your show in multiple platforms with everything going on. But it's so important now to different radio stations and companies that they're almost, I think sometimes companies forget what's coming out of the speakers, what's coming out of the speakers is still important too. And, I've had dead air before because I'm too busy posting something on the blog, because that's such a priority. And I get that, it's another way for the company to make money. But I guess if I had to give you a short answer, it's more work. It's another thing you have to maintain while you're on the air. Luckily I'm blessed with a great producer. Her name is Colleen Shea, and she is really good at finding those things when I'm on the air and helping us out. But there's some DJs that, you're doing a radio show, you're taking phone calls, you're doing a contest, and you're updating the website. So it's good, but it's also kind of bad in the sense that it's even more work.
And now, because a lot of your listeners are soccer moms, would you say that you sometimes have to play it safe on Twitter?
Well, it's funny. No, I can kind of push the envelope a little bit on Twitter because I don't know if all my followers are necessarily, all, soccer moms, and I hate that term. But, I use that term, by the way, because we are more likely to have a mom and dad in their car with their kid listening to our show than, a mom and dad with their kid listening to another show that might be more edgy. So, I guess to answer your question, Twitter, I might push the envelope a little bit more because of I've also been on Twitter now, 8 years. So I feel like a lot of people have been with me long enough that really know me. So, but I mean, I don't drop any dirty words on Twitter. But I do keep it safe on social media. I do act like I have a rule. If you don't say it or do it on the air, you probably shouldn't do it in social media.
I never thought of it that way because a lot of times I work at like a guy talk radio area, but at times I don't want to be like some of the famous talk show hosts, and we know which ones, that got fired for saying things on Twitter. So I'm often thinking, if I'm second guessing this tweet, I probably shouldn't post it, and that's my rule.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. And I could not agree with you more. Excellent point.
Because even if you do tweet it and then you get rid of it in 5 seconds, most of the time it shows up anyway, so they can just screenshot it, and you're screwed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for example, when oh, God, I forgot the name of the company that you know what I'm talking about, during the Oscars, that tweeted about, wow, we didn't know Oprah had tattoos, and it was actually a picture of Whoopi with her tattoos.
Or there was that time with that airplane company, there was that really vulgar picture of a girl naked in an airplane. Do you remember that? That was horrendous. Oh, that was bad.
Yeah. But just to follow up your point, I mean, this company that did the Oprah Whoopi mistake, they deleted that tweet, I think, within 2 minutes, and yet the next day it was all people were talking about. So, yeah, once you hit send, I mean, it's in internet space forever.
20 seconds is a long time. 2 minutes is like 10 years on Twitter. I mean, anybody and everybody can see that. That's bad.
And you know what today is, as far as Twitter goes, right?
Is it their birthday or anniversary?
Yeah, it's 10 years that Twitter has been up and running. And in fact, if you, I can't remember the website. I think if you go to twitter.myfirsttweet.com, you can actually type in your name and it'll tell you what time and what your first tweet was. It's pretty cool.
Twitter used to be a lot more fun when not everyone used it because it was like a little secret place, but now it seems like everyone has one, so it's just, you got to have one.
Yeah, I don't know about you. I do Twitter, and then I'm more into Instagram, and even though it is a tad bit on the younger demo side, I do like Snapchat.
Snapchat's easy. It's fun.
Yeah, I'm the kind of guy that can be walking down the streets of New York. I see something funny. I want to take a picture of it and just send it out. And I don't know. I like Snapchat.
I don't get the people who are older in radio. I'm not ripping into them, but I hate when they say, oh my God, I have to be on social media. It's like, of course, dude, you got to get with the times. If you want to be on the radio, you have to adjust. It's just, they come off so old and disgruntled.
Yeah, as much as they hate it, if they're saying that, then you're never gonna make them do a 180. So I say give up and don't. I don't know. I mean, some people will not ever adjust to that, and you can't work on radio right now unless you are part of social media.
It's really weird to see people on radio that are getting older and they're just doing the same crap they did from the 90s, you know? It's really nice to find shows that are original, that are reinventing themselves. Like, let's say, a Howard or an Opie and Jimmy, you know? Yeah,
well, there are not many of those, unfortunately, you know? I mean, I think we all try to do it, but we also have it depends on what kind of station you're on. The bigger the market, the more money that's involved, and you kind of have to play that people meter game, you know. I mean, a couple of people you mentioned are on satellite radio, and they don't have to worry about ratings, just subscriptions. So as far as when it comes to getting ratings, you know, as much as I'd want to do, X, you have to do Y because that's the way you win in the ratings game.
How hard is the whole PPM rating setup?
Every day it's like, every day it seems like there's a different philosophy on how to win at it. I mean, keep your break short, be quick, and then next day
I don't get that. Why can't you guys talk? You're paid to talk on the radio. I hate that you guys are given 7 seconds. It drives me crazy.
Well, that's if you're doing outside of the morning day part. Fortunately, for me in mornings, I mean, we talk a little bit more than that, but I agree. I think that if you want a jukebox, you will get your,
Spotify.
Spotify or Pandora. So people come to radio for personality. And I hope that, luckily I work for a company that gives, I feel like, a little bit more time to talk. But some people are really tightening down But it's the world we live in, It's just the way it is.
I think it's a case of we have this new world of ADHD where everything has to be so fast and easy. And I think we need to take a few things back and just relax, and go back to the old times of having 2-minute breaks. It was a lot more fun as a listener.
Well, it'd be fun to actually, it's a big risk, but it'd be fun to try it, and I'm talking like in a big market, not like, Barrow, Alaska, I mean, it would be awesome for a New York radio station, to say, all right, guys, for the next 6 months, we're just going to do, talk for 2 minutes, play a song, talk for 2 minutes. I mean, then you would get your answer. I mean, you would get your answer either way, but right now it's on the side of caution, and people come for the music, play the hits, and if you have something to say, make sure it's compelling and get them in the first few seconds, because there is a lot of choices out there, and I think that's why we have to do it. It's very easy to hit that button or go to your phone now, and there's just, you want to make sure that you keep people engaged.
Now, in a lot of different radio markets, there's the few big shows in the hallway, and then there's all these second-tier DJs. But for you guys, I'm pretty sure there's the Breakfast Club, Elvis Duran, then there's, of course, you and a few others. And I feel like you guys are competitors at times. Does it ever get weird in the hallway?
No, it doesn't, actually. It's a kind of a team atmosphere. I mean, look, I've never Elvis Duran, and the crew at Z, where I was for 10 years. I mean, they're just on fire, and I don't even think about. Of course, I love to have ratings as high as they are, but I mean, at the same time, if we're all winning, it's good for the company, and it's really looking at it as a company thing now, and not just competition. I look at me and Elvis and the Breakfast Club together. How can we combine to make sure another station in the market that's not our company doesn't grow? So would I love to be number one and be up there with Elvis? I mean, heck yeah. But the company is also happy if I'm number 2 and Charlemagne is number 3, or vice versa. As long as we're all up there, that's what looks good for iHeartMedia. So yeah, I look at it. It's just a different way of looking at it now. It's now company against company, I feel.
Now, I'm assuming since you're in the biggest radio market in America, you've met Bob Pittman before, have you?
I have. I've been very lucky to have dinner with him, too.
What's he like?
Dude, the guy, I love him. And I'm not just saying that because he employs me. He is just one of the nicest guys and one of the smartest guys you'll ever meet. I mean, we had an hour dinner, and it felt like it was a 10-minute dinner. He loves talking about his MTV days, his AOL days, just all the things that he's been a part of. And he's just such a smart guy. And it's an honor to work for a guy that has a story like he has.
Where do you see iHeartMedia, and where do you see radio overall going in the next 10 years? Because the last 10 years, it has changed so much. So where do you see it in 2026?
God, I don't know. I mean, it's not going to go anywhere, I'll tell you that. I mean, we're like KTU, for example. We have 5 million people tuning in each week, and that's about the number we were getting 10 years ago. So although it's more fragmented now with, like I said earlier, all the options you have, but at the end of the day, and I hate saying at the end of the day, but I just said it, but at the end of the day, it's free radio, and it's never going to go away. I mean, the same way you're going to still have ABC, when cable first came out, everyone said, uh-oh, CBS, NBC, all the big networks. Now there's 200 channels. Those 3 aren't going to make it. Those are still the 3 major networks. Now, then you add Fox to the mix, about 30 years ago. So, I mean, I think radio, like TV, even though there's a lot of distractions, it's not going to change much. And hopefully even more personality will come out over the years after we play this Be Quick and play the music game. Hopefully that will the more personality approach will come back too.
I actually see radio growing in the next 10 years and TV dying, because I see this trend of network TV shows getting more uncreative. And I was looking at the names of the shows that are out. Dude, I don't know the names of any of them. All the shows are on cable, they're on a premium cable, or they're on an online Netflix or Amazon Prime. To me, network TV's dying.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's going to die, to be honest with you, but I know what you're saying. I mean, you could pull out a list of about 20 shows, last year that were on for like 2 weeks and then canceled. So, but that goes back to almost what radio is going through. It's the ADHD thing. I mean, if you don't get them right away, they're going to pull the plug. So it seems like people want instantaneous these days. They don't want to. No one has patience anymore. They all want to. They all want to binge watch. Oh my God, Fuller House is out. Let's watch all 13 episodes in one day. Yeah, it's amazing how we all live in this I got to have it now world. But that's again the world we live in.
And I think we need to kind of change that because such shows like Simpsons and Seinfeld are known for having bad ratings in the beginning, but NBC and Fox believed in the shows. So I feel like if we gave shows more time, they would grow and we wouldn't have the same cliche sitcoms and dramas,
Yeah, 100% agreed.
Yes, I'm a geek, dude. I have a lot of opinions on the things that don't really matter, like radio and TV. But anything going on with Trump, I don't know anything, dude, even though I hate that man.
Yeah, the politics, I mean, I haven't really taken a side yet. I just, it's just amazing to watch. It's going to be an interesting next few months for sure.
I lean Democratic just because of, like, abortion and all the rights like that. But, oh, my God, dude. Trump makes me so sick. Like the fact that people even think that he's a good option, he's so disrespectful to women, and he's like so crude talking about his junk. This is a guy that kids will be looking up to if he's president. He's just such a buffoon. It's like, go away.
Yeah. It's again, I don't have an opinion of this because I don't talk religion or politics, but I get what you're saying. But you know what? We're talking about him, and that's
the problem. That's the problem is he's winning in the end. Us talking about him right now, he's winning.
You hate him. Yeah, exactly.
Now,
so you're not voting for Trump.
Speaking of people that we talk about but we hate, and you work at a soccer mom demographic at times, how do you cover the Kardashians? Because I despise them more than anything, but I'm also a person that works in guy radio. So how do you approach the Kardashians?
Well, we've tackled this issue multiple times on our show, on and off the air, and we've even done research studies that ask, during entertainment news, do you care about the Kardashians? And even though you will get a fair amount of people that say, I'm sick of them, they're not celebrities, they're just, they're famous for no reason, but then you'll get a majority of people that want to hear it. And we actually do Kardashian stories, even though my co-host, Carolina, she talks about, every time she does a Kardashian story on the air, she says, I know some people don't want to hear this, but a lot of people do, and here it is. We have studies that show that people do care. It can get too much, but for some odd reason, people really honestly care about hearing what's going on with them, and maybe that's why E has a Kardashian show on 24/7. I don't know, but there is an audience out there, shockingly.
I think it's because people are not happy with their lives or they have boring lives, so they get to see a different world where it's these rich girls that do nothing and just make money for no reason.
I think that you're right. You're right, dude. Some people love to see other people have problems, and it makes them feel better about their problems, 100%.
What's funny, too, is they have better writers than most of the shows on network TV. Like, the plot lines that happen on the show are so pathetic. Like, for example, I don't get the hate that Kanye West gets, dude. It's all scripted. It's all for attention. He's not going to be president. I think it's just people trying to find someone to hate,
Well, yeah, and you get upset because you think people fall for, you think people are falling for it to be real when you know at the end of the day it's probably really just a setup. It's all just written.
And then do you report it as actual news, or does it annoy you that you have to report it?
Well, luckily, I don't do it. I mean, my entertainment, my co-host does it. I'll just chime in every now and then with "Here we go, Kanye again," But we're real quick on these stories. We don't talk about it for 5 minutes. It's kind of like in and out, and we don't do one every day. But if it's worth it, we will.
And now, before I let you go, why should people check out your show?
Because we have a great balance. People want talk in the morning. They also want music. And I think we have a great balance of playing music that you know and love in the top 40 world. And when it comes to topics, we're not about quantity. We're not doing 30 stories a day. We're about quality. We're talking about 3 or 4 amazing topics a day, and I think it's compelling, and the calls we get are great, and it's just a fun show. I mean, it's just everything you need in 4 hours.
And now, where can people find your show?
Well, if you go to KTU.com, which is pretty simple, KTU.com, and click the Listen Live button, you can listen from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern, and Monday through Friday. And the iHeartRadio app, of course. You get the old free iHeartRadio app and type in 103.5 KTU in New York City. And, on social media, I'm under Paul Cubby Bryant, one long word, PaulCubbyBryant, and that's pretty much on Twitter and Instagram, Paul Cubby Bryant. The only thing I'm different on is Snapchat. I'm under Cubby Radio, Cubby Radio.
Well, dude, keep up the good work. I'm glad that we were able to meet at the morning show boot camp, and whenever you're in Tampa Bay, hit me up and let's get a beer.
I will, man, and hopefully I'll see you in August if you're at boot camp coming up in summer.
I will most likely be there, so I should see you there, dude.
All right, man. Really great talking to you, Ryan.
All right, thank you, dude. Keep up the good work.
You too, buddy.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
Happy Hour. Happy Hour.